Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are having an awesome day today. For this week's video, we're going to do a quick studio tour and hopefully help you guys figure out what gear you might need and which gear you might not want to bother with. Now, before we get too far, I should quickly mention none of the gear we talk about today has been sponsored or provided for or endorsed or any of that stuff. I'm not affiliated with any of the companies. This is just crap I use. Now, of course, my own home studio is purpose-built for my own needs, which is home recording and, of course, creating content for YouTube. So it's a very small, simple studio, purpose-built for those needs. All right, so let's start with the audio side first, since we are a guitar channel here, and then we'll talk about like the camera, the lens, the lighting, and all the video side. But for now, let's jump into the audio gear. Now, right from the beginning of my channel, when I was sitting in front of a window with a GoPro, I always tried to make sure my audio sounded good, because when you're doing comparisons or demoing gear, you always want to give your audience an accurate representation of what something sounds like so that they can make informed decision about, how to spend their money. So that being said, let's talk about the mic I use and the audio interface. Let's start with the mics. Now, having a good mic is like the heart of your audio system, kind of like the pickups in your guitar, a really important part of your signal chain. So I've used a Rode NT3, which I'll throw up a graphic beside me here, and I'm currently using a Rode NT1. So both of those mics are relatively low-cost microphones that can be used, obviously, on your voice, like we're doing right now, on acoustic guitar. You can even put them in front of an amp, or use it as an additional mic on an amp. So really versatile mic, and I've had great luck with them. So here's a picture of how I currently set up the Rode NT1, simply on a tabletop mic stand, a nice heavy bass on it, which is great. And then I've just put a foam baffle through the stand so that we don't get unwanted reflections coming from behind and making your audio sound all echoey. So that's it. Very simple system, and that's what I use to record, like I said, all my acoustic instruments and all my voice tracks. And then I have to take the voice tracks and sync them up to the video tracks in software afterward, which is a pain in the butt, but hopefully we'll maybe upgrade that system in the future. Now, the second mic I'm constantly using in my studio is a Sennheiser E906. So I'll take a shot of it. And it's an awesome mic. I find it nicer than the 57 and the NT1. I've compared them, all three of them, and the 906 is just the best for me. It just sounds the truest. So if I'm sitting in front of my amp and playing a part, and then I listen to it back, it sounds, like I'm sitting in front of it. So it's a great mic. Easy to use. You don't need a separate mic stand. You can just hang it over the grill. So very simple, and it's got some basic EQ on it too. So if you're more into like performance playing, you can just kind of flip to the bright setting, record a track, flip to the darker setting, double track it, pan it, mix it, or whatever, and you don't have to have multiple mics, and you don't have to like move your mic around a bunch and lose your sweet spot or whatever. So really handy stuff if you're into performance playing. Now for my channel, obviously I keep things very simple because we do comparisons, so I don't double track stuff. But if you're into that kind of playing, very handy. Next, we need a way to get our mic signals into our computer. So we need an audio interface, and I've just used USB ones for many, many years. I guess I used a Firewire one for a while, but I've used PreSonus, which is really affordable, robust, great for small studios. I've used Audient, the small little ID4, I think it was. Really clean preamp on that, that's great. And currently I'm using a Tascam UH7000. Really clean preamp, great converters. It has a few more inputs, and it's got digital inputs, which I wanted. So that's what I'm currently using. It sounds great, and doesn't break the bank. Now, if you're just looking for a quick and easy way to record your guitar into your computer and you don't want to mic an amp and all that stuff, you can just get like a Helix or a Kemper or Axe FX, or just plug straight into your audio interface and record like using Bias Effects and all those other programs. So there's other cheap ways that you can bypass, having to mic an amp and use mics and all that stuff, depending on your situation. If you're never, going to be recording acoustic instruments or voice or anything like that, then just grabbing a cheap USB interface, plugging into that, off you go. All right, we've got our audio into the computer. Now we need a piece of software to edit and export, mix down, all that kind of stuff. I use Studio One, which is a fine program. I'm just used to using it, so that's great. I've heard Cakewalk is being offered for free right now. I just read an article on that, so you guys might want to check that out. Gibson, which owned Sonar, which has been rebranded as Cakewalk. Anyway, they sold it off, and apparently another company bought it and are offering it for free. So if you need a great piece of editing software for free, Google Cakewalk and download that. great program. And you can't beat the price. Next up in the studio, let's talk about monitors, because that's kind of like the final chain. You need something relatively accurate so you can be confident that the mixes that you push out to the internet are the same that you're hearing in the room as you're mixing. Very important. So I've got a couple cheap options that are relatively good. So for my consumer level monitors, I just use a pair of Mackie CR4s, and these are just general multimedia speakers that sound good. And when you listen through those, you can be relatively confident that somebody anywhere in the world listening through computer speakers will have a relatively similar mix. So that's what I like those ones for, just checking to see what the average Joe might be listening through, and hopefully making sure the mix sounds good on those. And then, oh, dog's barking. And then my second set of monitors, again, is very affordable. It's the JBL 305s. So better clarity for sure than the Mackies. Not a lot of low end, but again, I'm not mixing bass, I'm not mixing drums. Back in the day when I did kind of recording bands, I had a bigger set of monitors with like 8-inch drivers. But yeah, if you want to do like full bands, you definitely would need to pair it with a sub. But just, for me, for recording guitar, the 305's great clarity and great price. All right, the last major piece of audio gear in the studio is the power distribution setup. So we've got sort of a filter to make sure the electricity to all the components is clean. And then obviously the switches so I can bring the lights on and off, the monitors in and out, and cameras on and off and all that kind of stuff, which just helps kind of smooth out the workflow. So that's it from an audio side. I'm probably forgetting a bunch of stuff, but anyway, those are the main points of gear that I'm currently using. It's just workman stuff. Nothing super high end or crazy, but it's been great for me and it's made my life a lot easier creating great audio tracks. All right, so now let's switch gears and move on to the video side. I always get asked what kind of cameras and lenses I'm using. So here we go. Now, this is the embarrassing part. My camera is epically old. It's a Canon 550D or a T2i, I think it was also branded as. So super old, but when it comes to creating great looking videos, lighting is key, and also having a great lens. So let's talk about that stuff. So I use two main lenses on the Canon when I'm shooting videos. The first is this EFS 24. This is a prime lens, incredibly sharp. This is the pancake one. It just looks like this. It gives you a really nice depth of, shallow depth of field. Which looks kind of like this. I'll just take a shot for you guys. But yeah, you can have a very slim portion of your frame perfectly in focus and very sharp, and then the outside edges on either side can be beautifully blurred. So that's where a lens like that is handy. I think it's less than 150 bucks. I can't remember what I paid for it, but it's very affordable. And if you're looking for a lens that can give you that look, that's a great choice. Now the second lens I'll often use on the channel is the Canon 18-200 EFS lens. It's a little bit wider, especially at 18, which is what I use it for. And it doesn't have that really narrow depth of field. So combining those two lenses makes for, a flexible way to shoot video. And if I need multiple angles that I want to switch back and forth between, I'll shoot with the DSLR and then obviously this little Hero 4. So those are what I use for my video. Let's talk about lighting. All right, so I'll take a shot with the GoPro so that you guys can see exactly what I see, when we sit down to chat. But basically we've got the camera on a tripod, and then we've got our audio set up with the mic and the little baffle there. And then we've got an LED light on top of the camera that just really fills in any shadows on my face, hopefully. And then off to the right, we've got a softbox number 1 and then softbox number 2 there. And then just the regular overhead light right there with one of the bulbs off. I find that looks a little bit better. So that's what, I normally see when I chat with you guys, and that's the setup. So the hot shoe light, which sits on top of the camera, that's a Polaroid LED light. It's dimmable, which is awesome. So you can set exactly, the exposure that you want. And then the soft boxes, I'll take a shot of those guys. But basically, there's two different layers that you can, cover it with to diffuse them. I'm just using the single layer. And I don't know, they each have 4 LED bulbs. They came with compact fluorescent, whatever that is, sorry. But anyway, I put LED lights in because they remain cool, and of course they just sip energy. They're so energy efficient, and they remain cool, which is really important when you're in a small space like this. All right, I think I've covered most of the gear that I use day in and day out, but if you guys have any other questions about gear, drop it in the comment section below and I'll get back to you. I guess I should mention the amp that I use in almost every single video is Mesa Boogie Blue Angel. So it's out of production, unfortunately. Great sounding amp, a nice neutral platform, and it's got like a Fender setting and a Marshall setting and then a custom setting, and it all has to do with tubes. So it's not modeling, it's not anything else, it's just pure tube circuits. So a great little amp that's works really well for what we do on the channel here. Thanks so much for joining me, you guys. I hope you enjoyed our little studio tour. You don't need the highest end gear to produce awesome stuff. Focus on the content, build your gear list slowly, and before you know it, you'll be recording tracks that sound great. So anyway, if you have questions, drop them in the section below. We'll see you guys next week with a new video. All my information will be on the screen right now. Other than that, have a great weekend, you guys. We'll see you Monday.